The world you see around you is in constant flux. People will come and go, circumstances will shift, and challenges will appear. But there is one thing that remains constant, and that is the strength within you. Your greatest ally is not found in the external world, but in the depths of your own being. There will always be people who try to define you, critics who try to shape your identity, and situations that will test your resolve. Yet, none of these forces can touch the truth of who you are unless you allow them to. The moment you begin to fully embrace yourself, without fear, without shame, you establish a foundation that cannot be shaken by the winds of others' opinions or the storms of life's trials. Self-awareness and acceptance are two of the most transformative practices one can embrace on the path to inner peace and resilience. These principles are not just about recognizing who you are on the surface level, but about diving deeply into the complexities of your inner world, facing both your light and your shadows with openness and compassion. When we talk about self-awareness, we are referring to the ability to observe and understand our thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and underlying motivations. It's about being conscious of the layers of your psyche, recognizing not only what you do and think those things. It is this awareness that allows us to see patterns in our lives, to identify the habits and beliefs that shape us, often without our even realizing it. This awareness is a powerful tool. It allows you to step back and view yourself objectively, as though you are an observer on life. This can create a sense of distance from the emotional and mental states that often control us, providing the clarity to make conscious choices rather than reacting impulsively to life's situations. When we are unaware, we are governed by automatic patterns, responses that were learned long ago, often shaped by our upbringing, our environment, and our past experiences. But when we become self-aware, we begin to realize that these responses are not who we truly are. They are merely habits that we can change. Self-awareness, however, is only part of the equation. The other half is self-acceptance, which is in many ways even more challenging. Acceptance is the act of embracing yourself fully without judgment or criticism. It's about acknowledging all aspects of your being, both the strengths and the weaknesses, the light and the shadow, the parts of yourself that you love and the parts that you'd rather hide away. For many people, acceptance is the hardest step. Society teaches us to strive for perfection, to show only the parts of ourselves that are deemed acceptable, admirable, or worthy. We are often led to believe that the only way to be valued is to be flawless in every way. As a result, we suppress our vulnerabilities, our fears, our imperfections. But this suppression only creates conflict within us, leading to inner turmoil and emotional pain. To truly accept ourselves, we must first let go of the need for perfection. We must stop pretending to be something we are not, and instead acknowledge our flaws as part of the human experience. Self-acceptance is not about glorifying your imperfections, but rather it is about seeing them as natural aspects of being human. It's about releasing the need to compare ourselves to others or to an unrealistic ideal. When we embrace our full humanity, we stop rejecting parts of ourselves and instead we integrate them into our sense of self. Acceptance also means forgiving yourself for past mistakes and allowing yourself to grow. Too often, we cling to regrets, holding on to the belief that we are defined by our past actions. But the truth is, we are not our mistakes. We are the lessons we learn from them. In accepting ourselves, we let go of the weight of guilt and shame that holds us back, freeing ourselves to evolve into the people we are meant to be. The more we cultivate self-awareness, the deeper our acceptance can become. Awareness allows us to recognize the thoughts and beliefs that contribute to self-judgment, while acceptance provides the space to release. It is through this dynamic relationship between awareness and acceptance that we begin to transform our inner world. The beauty of self-awareness and acceptance is that they are not about achieving perfection, but about embracing progress. They teach us that we are not defined by our past, by our mistakes, or by our flaws, but by our willingness to grow, to face ourselves with honesty, and to meet our shortcomings with compassion. When we accept ourselves fully, we stop waiting for external validation to feel worthy, because we understand that our value comes from within. This practice of self-awareness and acceptance is an ongoing journey, one that requires patience and a deep sense of commitment to yourself. It is not a destination, but a continual process of discovery, healing, and growth. As we become more attuned to our inner selves, we begin to develop a greater understanding of how our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors interact. And as we accept ourselves more deeply, we begin to radiate a sense of peace and confidence that cannot be shaken by the opinions or actions of others. In the end, self-awareness and self-acceptance offer the most profound gift of all: freedom. Freedom from the need to prove ourselves, freedom from self-doubt, and freedom from the constant pressure to conform to external expectations. When we are truly aware of who we are and accept ourselves fully, we become liberated from the chains of judgment, both internal and external, and are free to live authentically with peace and purpose. Inner peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but a deep, abiding sense of calm and harmony within oneself that remains steady regardless of the external circumstances. It is the result of cultivating a mind that is no longer dominated by constant chatter, emotional turbulence, or fear. True inner peace arises when one learns to coexist with the complexities of life without being shaken by them. It is a quiet, unshakable foundation that allows you to face the inevitable challenges of life without losing your sense of self. At the core of inner peace is the understanding that peace does not come from the outside world. It is a state of being that must be developed from within. We often search for peace in external circumstances, hoping that if our situations were different, we would feel more at ease. We believe that if we could change our job, our relationships, or our surroundings, we would finally feel content. However, the external world is in constant flux, and to depend on it for lasting peace is to build a house on shifting. True peace arises when we come to understand that it is not the world around us that must change, but our response to it. One of the first steps in cultivating inner peace is to acknowledge the role of our thoughts in creating our emotional reality. Our minds are constantly active, running stories about the past, projecting fears into the future, and judging the present moment. These thoughts create an inner dialogue that often generates stress, anxiety, and worry. We may find ourselves obsessing over things that are out of our control, replaying past mistakes, or fearing what might happen next. This cycle of thought is not conducive to peace. Instead of being the observer of our thoughts, we become enmeshed in them, carried away by their current. Learning to detach from these thoughts is essential in finding peace. This does not mean suppressing them or pretending they do not exist, but rather observing them without judgment and allowing them to pass. It is the realization that thoughts are just thoughts. They do not define who we are, nor do they need to govern our emotions or actions. When we can begin to step back and see our thoughts as transient, we break the cycle of reactivity. We stop being ruled by them and instead regain control over our emotional responses. Equally important in the pursuit of inner peace is the practice. These aspects may include our fears, insecurities, desires, anger, and traits that society deems negative or undesirable. However, the shadow is not inherently negative or destructive. It is simply a part of the human experience that we learn to acknowledge and integrate in order to live a balanced, whole life. The shadow is not just a collection of traits we reject. It is also the hidden potential within us that we have yet to fully understand or express. It is the parts of ourselves that, when ignored, can lead to internal conflict and external dysfunction. The more we deny our shadow, the more it remains hidden, festering beneath the surface, shaping our actions and emotions in ways we might not even recognize. It is often in moments of emotional outbursts or unconscious behavior that we are confronted with our shadow, revealing to us the parts of ourselves that are operating outside our awareness. At first glance, the shadow may seem like something to be feared or avoided. We may think that by confronting it, we will open ourselves up to feelings of shame, guilt, or inadequacy. However, this fear of the shadow only perpetuates the cycle of repression. In truth, the shadow is not something to be feared, but rather something to be understood. When we face the aspects of ourselves that we have long ignored or buried, we begin to integrate these parts into our conscious experience, ultimately making us whole. The more we resist or repress the shadow, the more power it has over us. However, when we acknowledge it and bring it into the light of our awareness, we begin to reclaim that power. One of the key reasons we avoid the shadow is that it often holds aspects of our personality or behavior that we consider to be weaknesses. These might be traits like anger, jealousy, or selfishness, emotions that society typically labels as negative. We are often taught to suppress these emotions in favor of what is considered socially acceptable or good. But when we suppress these aspects, they do not disappear. They continue to influence our thoughts, decisions, and interactions in subtle and sometimes harmful ways. In order to truly embrace the shadow, we must be willing to acknowledge these emotions, not as threats, but as natural parts of being human. By accepting the shadow, we allow ourselves to experience these emotions without letting them control us. For example, anger can be a powerful motivator for change or self-protection, but only if we allow ourselves to feel it without guilt or shame. Likewise, jealousy can point to desires and aspirations that we may need to explore further. When we allow these feelings to surface, we gain clarity about the deeper desires and needs that are driving them. Instead of projecting these emotions outward, blaming others or external circumstances, we take responsibility for them, understanding that they are part of our internal landscape. However, embracing the shadow is not about acting on every impulse or indulging every desire. It is about gaining a deeper understanding of the hidden forces that shape our being. It is a conscious process of observing these emotions without judgment, allowing them to teach us something about our desires, fears, and limitations. When we are able to face our shadow with compassion and acceptance, we can begin to transform the energy containing it, channeling it in ways that are constructive and aligned with our true self. The shadow also holds the key to our personal power and untapped potential. Often the parts of ourselves that we repress are the very aspects that can lead to growth and transformation. For example, our shadow may include qualities such as assertiveness or creativity, traits we may have learned to suppress out of fear of rejection or failure. By integrating these qualities into our conscious self, we unlock a deeper sense of confidence and capability. The shadow is not just a collection of negative traits, but also a source of strength and wisdom that can guide us toward becoming the fullest version of ourselves. Another important aspect of embracing the shadow is the recognition that it exists in everyone. No one is immune to the complexities of the human condition, and every individual carries their own shadow. When we confront our own shadow, we begin to understand the shadows of others as well. This can lead to greater empathy and compassion, as we recognize that everyone has their own struggles, fears, and vulnerabilities. Instead of judging others for their flaws or mistakes, we begin to see them as fellow travelers on the journey of self-discovery, each grappling with their own hidden parts. Embracing the shadow also requires patience and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves. It is a lifelong process of uncovering and integrating the parts of ourselves that we would rather ignore. It is not an easy path, and there will be moments of resistance, self-doubt, and discomfort along the way. But the rewards of this journey are immense. As we embrace our shadow, we become more authentic, more balanced, and more at peace with ourselves. We stop living in fear of our own darkness and instead learn to use it as a source of wisdom and strength. The process of embracing the shadow ultimately leads to greater wholeness and integration. Instead of living divided, constantly fighting against parts of ourselves, we come to understand and accept our full humanity. This integration of the shadow allows us to move through life with greater ease, authenticity, and power, no longer controlled by hidden forces, but instead guided by the full spectrum of our being. Life is a continuous series of challenges, each one presenting an opportunity for growth, whether we recognize it in the moment or not. Challenges are often seen as obstacles to our progress or as disruptions to our comfort, but when viewed through a different lens, they hold the potential to reshape us in profound ways. The trials we face, whether they come in the form of personal struggles, failures, or external adversity, are not simply tests of endurance. They are invitations to evolve, to step beyond the limitations we have placed on ourselves, and to transform the very way we approach life. The first step in transforming challenges into growth is shifting our perspective. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeing obstacles as burdens, as things to be avoided or overcome at all costs. This reactive mindset often leads to frustration and resistance. However, When we adopt the mindset that challenges are an inherent part of the human experience, we begin to understand that they are not here to punish us, but to push us toward our own expansion. Life is not meant to be a smooth, uninterrupted path. It is a dynamic journey of learning and evolving. Challenges, then, are simply the raw material from which we build our inner strengths, resilience, and wisdom. One of the most profound ways that challenges can foster growth by forcing us to confront aspects of ourselves that we might otherwise never encounter. When life is easy, when everything flows according to plan, we tend to remain in our comfort zones, avoiding any kind of deep introspection. It is only when we face difficulty that we're forced to ask ourselves questions like, what is really important to me? What do I truly value? How do I respond to adversity? These are questions that often go unexamined in times of ease, but become central to our personal development when we are challenged. By engaging with these questions, we gain deeper insight into our true nature, uncovering strengths we may not have known we had and weaknesses we may need to address. A significant part of transforming challenges into growth is learning how to respond to adversity in a constructive way. It's not about avoiding the discomfort that comes with hardship, but about embracing it and using it as a tool for transformation. When we encounter challenges, our natural instinct might be to resist, to push back, or to wish for the situation to change. However, such resistance only prolongs our suffering. Instead, when we face adversity with openness and acceptance, we allow ourselves to adapt and learn. This requires a shift from a mindset of victimhood to one of empowerment. Rather than seeing ourselves as helpless in the face of challenges, we can choose to view them as opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow stronger. Challenges also teach us the importance of patience and perseverance. In a world that often values instant gratification, it is easy to forget that meaningful growth rarely happens overnight. The process of transformation is slow and requires sustained effort over time. When we are faced with a challenge, we may feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the task ahead. However, if we break it down into manageable steps and focus on the small, incremental progress we are making, we can keep moving forward. Patience allows us to stay committed to the process, even when the end result feels distant or uncertain. In doing so, we build resilience, learning that even in the most difficult moments, we have the capacity to endure and continue on our path. Another essential aspect of transforming challenges into growth is the role of failure. Many of us fear failure, seeing it as a sign of weakness or incompetence. However, failure is not something to be feared. It is a natural part of the learning process. In fact, it is through failure that we often learn the most about ourselves and the world around us. Each failure is an opportunity to reassess our approach, refine our strategies, and develop new skills. It is only by making mistakes that we truly grow, as each misstep provides valuable feedback that helps us move closer to success. Those who are able to embrace failure as part of the journey are more likely to persevere, learn from their experiences, and ultimately achieve their goals. In transforming challenges into growth, we must also recognize that we are not alone in our struggles. While each person's journey is unique, the challenges we face are often shared by many others. By connecting with others who are going through similar difficulties, we can gain support, encouragement, perspective. This sense of community helps to remind us that we are not isolated in our pain or hardship. It also provides an opportunity for empathy, as we learn to understand and support others who are navigating their own challenges. Through these connections, we can develop a sense of shared humanity and strength, which can be a powerful source of motivation when facing our own trials. Lastly, transforming challenges into growth requires a willingness to let go of the need for control. Many of us strive to maintain control over every aspect of our lives, but the reality is that life is inherently unpredictable. Challenges often arise from circles beyond our control, and the more we try to resist or fight against them, the more we intensify our suffering. Learning to let go of our attachment to outcomes and surrender to the flow of life allows us to find peace, even in the midst of adversity. This does not mean giving up or becoming passive. Rather, It is about accepting the uncertainty of life and trusting that each challenge we face is leading us toward greater wisdom and growth. When we transform challenges into growth, we realize that every difficulty we encounter is an opportunity to become a better version of ourselves. It is through adversity that we learn to develop the qualities of resilience, patience, and courage. We also learn to trust ourselves, knowing that no matter what happens, we have the strength to overcome it. As we continue to face life's challenges with an open heart and a mindset of growth, we begin to see that our struggles are not obstacles to our success, but essential steps along the path to our fullest potential. Presents us with challenges at every turn, often arriving when we least expect them. These challenges can range from personal struggles, such as health issues or relationship difficulties, to external challenges like financial setbacks or societal pressures. While it is natural to view these obstacles as sources of frustration or fear, they are, in fact, opportunities for personal growth. Transforming challenges into growth requires a shift in perspective, an openness to learning, and a willingness to embrace discomfort as a path toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. At the heart of transforming challenges into growth is the idea that our response to adversity shapes our experience. It's not the challenge itself that determines our growth, but how we choose to meet. When faced with difficulties, our first instinct is to resist, to fight against the situation, or to wish for it to go away. This resistance, however, only serves to heighten our stress and prolong the discomfort. On the other hand, when we learn to accept challenges as a part of life and view them as opportunities to evolve, we can approach them with a sense of curiosity and openness. This mindset allows us to extract lessons from even the most difficult circumstances, fostering growth rather than stagnation. One of the key ways challenges can lead to growth is through the process of self-discovery. When we face adversity, we are often forced to confront parts of ourselves that we would prefer to ignore or avoid. These may include our fears, insecurities, or negative thought patterns. In the face of difficulty, we cannot rely on the same coping mechanisms or comfort zones that we might turn to during times of ease. Instead, we are pushed to explore new aspects of our identity and to reevaluate our values, strengths, and limitations. By engaging with these deeper parts of ourselves, we gain a clearer understanding of who we truly are and what we are capable of. This self-awareness is essential for personal growth, as it allows us to make conscious choices and take purposeful action moving forward. Furthermore, challenges have the power to teach us resilience, the ability to bounce back from adversity and keep moving forward despite setbacks. Resilience is not an inherent trait that some people are born with, but rather a skill that can be developed over time through experience. Each challenge we face is an opportunity to strengthen our resilience. When we approach difficulties with the understanding that they are temporary and surmountable, we build the mental and emotional endurance needed to navigate future obstacles. Resilience is cultivated through persistence, patience, and the willingness to stay the course, even when the outcome is uncertain. The more resilient we become, the less likely we are to be thrown off balance by life's inevitable challenges. In addition to resilience, challenges also foster a sense of gratitude. While it may seem counterintuitive to feel grateful for hardship, it is often through adversity that we come to appreciate the things we once took for granted. For example, when we face health issues, we may gain a renewed sense of gratitude for our physical well-being once we begin to heal. Similarly, challenges in relationships can deepen our appreciation for the connections we share with others. By learning to see challenges as opportunities for gratitude, we shift our focus from what is lacking or broken to what we can learn and cherish. This shift in perspective can be a powerful catalyst for growth, as it allows us to find meaning and purpose even in the most difficult circumstances. Another way that challenges contribute to growth is by expanding our capacity for empathy. When we experience hardship, we gain a deeper understanding of what others might be going through. This increased empathy allows us to connect with others on a more profound level. Offering support and self-actualization, however, requires us to stop comparing ourselves to others and instead focus on what makes us unique. It's about breaking free from the constraints of societal conditioning and allowing ourselves the freedom to explore and express our true identity, even if it differs from what is considered conventional or accepted. A significant part of self-actualization involves understanding and honoring our deepest needs and desires. Often, we become so caught up in the hustle of daily life or the pursuit of external achievements touch with our innermost longings. These desires might manifest as a longing for creativity, a deep desire to contribute to the well-being of others, or the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. Self-actualization requires a willingness to listen to these inner calls and take action on them, regardless of how daunting they might seem. It is about nurturing the aspects of ourselves that have been silenced or neglected, giving them the space to grow and flourish. Another crucial element of self-actualization is the development of emotional intelligence and self-acceptance. To realize our full potential, we must be able to accept ourselves as we are, including our imperfections and flaws. This does not mean settling for mediocrity or refusing to grow, but rather recognizing that we are inherently worthy of love, respect, and acceptance, regardless of our mistakes or shortcomings. Embracing our vulnerabilities allows us to heal and evolve, giving us the courage to take risks, pursue our dreams, and step into our power. Self-acceptance is foundational in the process of self-actualization because it allows us to stop hiding behind masks or pretending to be someone we are not. When we accept ourselves fully, we give ourselves permission to pursue what truly matters without fear of judgment or failure. Furthermore, self-actualization involves creating a life that is meaningful and purposeful. It is not enough to simply exist. Self-actualized individuals actively seek out ways to contribute to the world and make a difference. This might involve pursuing a career that aligns with their values, cultivating relationships that support their growth, or dedicating themselves to causes that resonate deeply with. For some, this sense of purpose may come through artistic expression or intellectual exploration, while for others, it may be about creating positive change in their communities. The key is that self-actualization pushes individuals to live intentionally and with purpose, guided by their inner values and aspirations. Part of the journey towards self-actualization also involves embracing the full spectrum of human experience, including both light and dark aspects of existence. True self-actualization is not about being perfect or achieving an idealized state. It is about embracing our humanity with all its complexities. This means acknowledging our flaws, mistakes, and limitations, but also recognizing our strengths, talents, and successes. It involves finding balance between our inner and outer worlds and learning to navigate life's ups and downs with resilience and grace. The process of self-actualization requires us to integrate all aspects of ourselves, not just the positive traits that society values, but also the parts of ourselves that we might perceive as weaknesses or vulnerabilities. As we progress on the path to self-actualization, we also begin to recognize the interconnectedness of all people. While self-actualization is deeply personal, it does not exist in a vacuum. To realize our full potential, we must engage with the world around us and contribute to the collective well-being. Self-actualized individuals understand that their growth is linked to the growth of others, and that by supporting and uplifting those around them, they too grow and evolve. This sense of connection fosters empathy, compassion, and a desire to serve, creating a ripple effect of positive change in the world. Lastly, self-actualization is about freedom to be who we truly are, free from the limitations imposed by